Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. I'm just realizing that, the old tech issues are biting me a little bit today. Let's see if we can get this thing going here. You think you get something right, you click the wrong button. You know how this goes. You click the wrong button and things just don't work. So what I'm seeing here now, I think it looks like I clicked the wrong button for Twitter X. And with there being, I don't think, a way to add. Let me see if I can add as we're talking here. Oh, maybe I can. Look at this. Let's see if Ray can get it going in midstream here. Boom! Look at that. I'm such a tech whiz. For those of you that don't know, again, I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Welcome to the show today, by the way. For those of you that don't know, I am hosting, producing, creating. I'm doing everything with this show. And while normally it's rather seamless, today we had a little bit of a bump in the road, but it looks like we're back rocking and rolling. You can always watch this show live on YouTube at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. You can always watch us live on Facebook at facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. Both of those two spots allow you to leave comments. If you leave comments, I will address the comments, questions at the end of the show. We do that every day. So those two spots. We're having a little bit of an issue today with our Twitter account, but you can watch the show every day. You can ask questions there, but you can watch the show every day live at Fantasy Guru's site on Twitter X. So that's up and running right now. That's what I had to fix a little bit. By the way, this Fantasy Sports Daily Show, as you're hopefully aware by now, is available every day, Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. So we're here for about an hour every day, Monday through Friday, with this free show, sharing some fun times where we talk football. We always talk baseball for like the first half hour of the show. And then sometimes 3 days a week, basically Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we talk football the second half of the show. We answer those questions at the end here. Sometimes there's a link between this show and articles that are being written over at FantasyGuru.com. We did a lot of that, especially during the All-Star break, where we would talk about starting pitchers here, and then it'd be an article over at the website. So check it out. Hopefully you're enjoying this show. Tell a friend, because as you're well aware, because you're watching now, it's free. You can also go to FantasyGuru.com, click the Elite Plus tab. Oops, wrong side. Click the Elite Plus tab in the banner at the top. That'll take you to all the shows we have, so you can watch directly on the website as well. You can also type in Fantasy Sports Daily to Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube Music, and be able to find us there if you want to take us on the go with you in a podcast form. What are we talking about today on the show? Well, let me throw it up on the screen. There you go. Lawrence Butler, who we've talked about on the show. We'll have a little update there with Lawrence Butler, who's completely out of control right now. Tyler O'Neill, a little update on him. Xander Bogaerts back from injury. How's he doing? Brandon Lowe of the Rays. Tyler Fitzgerald. Do we know who this is? Let's talk a little bit about Tyler Fitzgerald. Ben Rice, Jasson Dominguez, Tyler Locklear, Garrett, Crochet, and Jordan Montgomery. And then on the injury side of things, we got a lot to talk about. Unfortunately, today it's a busy one there. We were told Julio Rodriguez wouldn't go on the injured list. He went on the injured list. We were told Mike Trout was going to return this week. Doesn't look like Mike Trout's coming back this week. Kyle Tucker, I assume he's going to play baseball again. We'll see. Christian Scott, Max Scherzer, Bailey Falter. We'll talk about all of that for about the next half hour before we're joined by Armando Marsal to talk a little bit of football. The Wednesdays are Armando Marsal joining us at about 12:30 Eastern time to talk football. Thursdays are Tyler Beaker. Fridays are Russell Clay. So today Armando will join us, and we'll talk over the situation with Brandon Aiyuk, the backfield with the Chiefs, the quarterback position with the Patriots, with the Giants, some drafters ADP. He wrote an article. We've talked a lot about drafters. We'll get into the promo codes when he comes on, and he'll give some information about the ADP over there. Harrison, Marvin, Jahmyr, Gibbs, and kind of what his ideal format is. So he's doing all these articles talking about this style or that style. I'll ask him directly, which format does he prefer? So we'll talk about that in a little bit with Armando Marsal. All right, Lawrence Butler. We've talked a lot about Lawrence Butler here on the show, and you know that the fact is that Lawrence Butler has just been terrific. And he did it yet again last night. He went 3 for 4 at a home run, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored. We had a bet on him over at FantasyGuru.com. That bet hit. The hit RBI run prop. This is insanity. For those people that haven't realized with Lawrence Butler, his last 11 games, 20 hits, 20 RBIs, 4 doubles, 2 triples, 6 home runs. Now, I realize that's a little bit sporadic and a little bit of cherry picking, but just pull back for a second. In 11 games, he's got 6 home runs, 20 RBIs. Okay. 20 RBIs, 20 hits, 4 doubles, 2 triples, 6 home runs. Since 1920, when the RBI became an official statistic, that's only happened 5 times in 11 games. Ever. And all 5 of those guys that did that are in the Hall of Fame. Lawrence Butler, as we've talked about, is, he's worked his way actually up to the top spot in the batting order for the Athletics. Over the last 10 games, it's 5 home runs, 17 RBIs. He's hitting 500. He's 18 for his last 36. Over the last month, he's played 22 games. He's got 8 home runs, 25 RBIs, hitting 386 with a 1,300 OPS. You really can't do much better than this over a month-long period of time. Like, legitimately. He's been a superstar for the last month. Now, there are still the concerns with him, the holes in his game, the strikeouts in particular. There's still the fact that obviously, you're getting in late to the game here. He's, my goodness, he's 14 for his last 26? So he's 12 for his last 19. 12 for 19. He's getting 2 or 3 hits every game. I mean, it's just out of control. Just wanted to tip the cap to him. Is he usable right now in fantasy? He's usable in every format in fantasy right now. All of them right now. What do I expect the final 2 months? I would hope that he's a solid outfielder 5. Maybe he's a 4, and hell, maybe he becomes a 3. Maybe it's all coalesced quickly. I'm a little bit slow to buy that, but the fact is that Butler has been tremendous. And he's in the lineup every day now. He's batting leadoff now. The A's offense, they had 5 home runs last night. Like, the A's offense is much better now than it was at the start of the season when they were terrible and we were attacking them with pitching. Rooker's getting it done. Bladay's been on fire of late. Langolier seems to hit a home run every night. The Athletics offense is much better, and it's led by Lawrence Butler. So if he's on the waiver wire, even if you're in a 10-team league, get him. You've missed it, right? Because he's been historically great for the last 2 weeks. But there are signs here that the production is going to continue, at least to the point where he could be usable the rest of the way. It's been fantastic. Really tip of the cap to him. And he's on my Dynasty League team. Yes. Tyler O'Neill hit his 19th and 20th home runs of the season last night to help the Red Sox move to 54 and 46. Tyler O'Neill has been white hot at times. He's been white cold at times, or ice cold at times, a better way to say it. He has been usable. He's been injured, all these kind of things. Overall, he's hitting 267. 3 steals. Those are really not numbers that we were hoping for. You hope for him to, 267 is okay. You hope for him to go 30-15 if he's fully healthy. He's got 20 home runs in 73 games. So clearly he's on the 30 home run pace after the 2 dongs last night. The steals piece is lacking. He is hitting, he's 10 for his last 23. So he's on fire as well. He's got 4 home runs his last 5 games. He's somebody that still strikes out a ton. There's still the strikeout concern. And I don't know how easy this is to do. I'm going to say it's virtually impossible to do. I haven't looked this stat up, so I don't have an answer to it. But Tyler O'Neill right now has 20 home runs. He's got 38 RBIs. He has 20 RBIs when he's knocked himself in on the home run. He's only driven in 18 other people in 73 games. Like, that's virtually impossible to do. Virtually impossible to have more RBIs of yourself than the rest of your team, especially when you're hitting 267 with an 890 OPS. Like, this is not a guy that's, hitting a home run every 3 months and that's his only hit. So Tyler O'Neill, we all know what Tyler O'Neill is at this point. I think it was a big night. Just wanted to highlight it because it was, a strong winning effort last night. If you're in DFS, I believe we had him as the number 1 outfielder last night. And Butler was 3rd or 4th. So Butler was in the cash game. I was in the cash game breakdown as core 4 player. So he went through 4 with the walk, a home run, 2 RBIs, 2 runs scored. So pretty good day there on the hitting side of things with the core 4. I think we'll see. Xander Bogaerts is back. He went 2 for 4 last night. He's got 2 hits in 5 of the 6 games since he's returned from injury. He's actually hitting 400 in those 6 games, going 10 for 25. He hasn't driven the baseball yet, that kind of thing. And with Xander Bogaerts, I think that we've gotten to the point where we had become kind of immune or kind of numb to the success he had. We kind of just expected it to occur. And then this season, it wasn't occurring. He wasn't hitting anything. And I think this last week here, since he's returned, a week of games, has kind of reminded everyone that, like, look, this guy is a pretty damn good player, and he's 31 years old, and maybe he's overpaid at 11 years, $280 million. Okay, get past it. Let's just deal with what he is. Last year, he was a home run and a steal away from going 2020. He hit 285. Like, he's a very good offensive player without doing anything special. I don't know. Is he on the waiver? I was hoping over the weekend. I was like, oh, he's coming back. And all of my leagues, all of the leagues I'm in have IL spots except for one. But in the league that we don't have IL spots, we have larger rosters. Bottom line is Bogaerts was on everyone's IL. He was on the waiver wire. He's on your waiver wire. I am not against picking him up, especially given the hot streak he has displayed here since he's returned. Would I expect greatness out of him the rest of the way? No. Would I expect a usable piece out of Xander Bogaerts? I would. I would. And, I think it's worth pointing out, too, that I'm just looking here to see. He's only played shortstop. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And I was hoping he played second base a little bit. I kind of forgot how they utilized him with Kim around. But his numbers overall down. Numbers of late, great. Let's call him basically the hitter we saw last season. I wouldn't expect the steals pace. Look, Adam, because he's a solid hitter. If you get a really good couple of months, I'm not going to be shocked. If you get a kind of average couple of months, it wouldn't be surprising either. But I'd be adding him if he was available. I'd try to add him myself. Brandon Lowe went 1 for 4 last night with the home run and 2 RBIs. That's the 11th home run of the season for Lowe. 5 home runs in July. And, Lowe is somebody, it's spelled Lowe, but his name is pronounced Lowe. Brandon Lowe is one of the better power-hitting middle infielders in baseball. He has had a very difficult time staying in the lineup, including this year. He has quietly been great in July. He's got 5 home runs that I mentioned in July. He's hitting .281 with a .349 on-base percentage and a .579 slugging percentage. Those are Hall of Fame numbers for a second baseman. They're certainly all-star numbers in the fantasy space. He is really rolling right now. He's even playing against left-handed pitchers more than I would anticipate it. He is likely, fingers crossed, likely to get hurt the rest of the way. I hate saying that, but that's the track record. He's not a 280 hitter. He's a guy that's hitting 250, okay. But he's got pop, and he's in a nice groove right now, and he's hitting at the top of the order. I think he's been batting second. Let's pull this up. I think he's been batting second for a while now. I think they basically settled in as hitter number 2 hitter for the Rays, if I remember correctly. Actually, his hot streak has got him to hit third 3 of the last 4 games. So he was hitting second, but now they've actually been popping him into third more often than not. Part of that because, I think they've adjusted the lineup with Andy Diaz being away. We still don't have an update on when Diaz's family situation is going to get resolved, so we don't know when he's going to be back. But the bottom line is Brandon Lowe, if you're looking for a boost up the middle, Bogaerts and Lowe are 2 really solid targets. 2 veterans that no one was overly excited about a month and a half ago, but now they're usable. Tyler Fitzgerald, if we want to talk about a middle infielder, Tyler Fitzgerald was in the cash game breakdown yesterday. I did see a lineup someone set that had him in it. If you did, that's great. He went 3 for 3 with a walk, a home run, 2 RBIs. Now, he is the first rookie shortstop, Tyler Fitzgerald, of the Giants. The first rookie shortstop in the history of the game of baseball to have a home run in 5 consecutive games. Wow. Is that who he is? Absolutely not. He's barely a top 30 prospect with the Giants. His power, scouting reports, and everything are below average. The only close to plus skill he really has is the speed. So this is a player in Tyler Fitzgerald that very likely is going to profile long-term as a sub, that backup infielder on the roster. If he's playing every day, it's because he's just in a hot streak or there's injuries, right? He doesn't profile as an everyday. He doesn't even profile as an everyday starter at the big league level. Now, he's 9 for 20, and he's got 5 home runs in those 7 games in July. He's playing every day now for the Giants. And we talked about this with Julio Ramos, and Julio kept it going. So now he's part of the lineup on a daily basis. Maybe Tyler Fitzgerald holds off Luciano and stays as the shortstop for the Giants. I mean, they've got Schmidt as well, who's floating around. But the fact is that Fitzgerald is incredibly hot right now. There's no possible way, again, he sustains this. He just doesn't – he's not a power hitter, and no one ever predicted him to hit 300. Stranger things have happened. Okay. But he's somebody that right now is in a groove. I think he's the perfect short-term addition. I'm going to try to roll him for 2 weeks, and then I don't care. He's the perfect DFS play like he was yesterday because his price point, it was $3,700 on DraftKings, $2,300 on FanDuel, if I remember right. Those numbers could be wrong, but I think that's what it was. At those price points, but be cautious because his game just doesn't overflow with skills. Ben Rice, the questions have come up multiple times in Discord, written about Ben Rice. We talked about him here on the show. And the fact is that a Yankee who's catcher eligible in many leagues, who comes up and hits home runs at the start, everyone has to have. And we sat here on the show, and I wrote about it over at fantasyguru.com, and I said, look, number one, he's not a catcher. He's a bad defensive player. He's going to have to play other positions, which the Yankees have done with him, which is good because that gets him in the lineup more consistently anyway if he's playing first base or whatever. But I said all along, he's very, despite what the numbers look like at AAA this year, he's very average offensive outlook. And I didn't even tell people to run out and get him. Now, for 3 weeks, that looked stupid because he went out and killed it. And that looked like terrible advice. Now we're in a scenario where I think he's 4 for his last 44. And he's got 21 strikeouts since he had that 3 home run game back on July 6th. Like, it went in the toilet overnight almost with him. And now we have to worry about the scenario because the Yankees are welcoming back Giancarlo Stanton soon. They're absolutely going to make a trade. We all know they're going to make a trade for somebody. Rice could be in the minors in 2 weeks or 10 days, right? He could get traded. That's possible. But he's probably back in the minor leagues in 10 days. So if you're rolling with Rice as your single catcher, you got to get out now. If he's your second catcher and you want to see how things play out through the trade deadline, which is a week away, I get that. That's okay. I'm not against that. But understand that, he, as said earlier, he's more of just a guy than that star that he was for 2 weeks that got everyone excited. Jasson Dominguez, by the way, since we're talking Yankees, Jasson Dominguez, that oblique issue, he took batting practice yesterday, or Monday, actually, excuse me. And it sounds like he's been out with that oblique issue for a month and a half. Sounds like he's going to return to game action next week. So a call up mid-August to the big league team is possible. Now, it all depends. What happens? Do they trade Dominguez? Do they trade somebody else? Do they bring someone in to take his spot? But Dominguez is probably 2 or 3 weeks away from being ready to return to the big league level if the Yankees have a spot for him at that time. Tyler Locklear has been called up. We talked about Ty France here on the show the other day. France is, on his way to another team at some point here in the near future. Locklear is called up to ostensibly take over at first base for the Mariners. I wrote an article a couple of days ago where I broke down Tyler Locklear over at fantasyguru.com, one of my ramblings pieces, waiver moves and pitching updates. Waiver move and pitching updates. Got a picture of Victor Robles on the article. So go check out that article for more of my thoughts on Mr. Locklear. A couple of pitchers to talk about. Garrett Crochet, I guess he's getting traded. And as we've discussed, he has already thrown more innings this season than he had the last 4 years. We saw it again last night. He struggled at the start. He gave up a couple runs in the first inning, then had 3 shutout innings. And what happened? He was pulled from the game. Now, that is 3 consecutive games where he's failed to go 4 games, actually, where he's failed to go more than 4 innings. Part of that was design, right, heading into the All-Star break. I think part of that is also the White Sox saying, look, we can't have this guy blow his arm out. We're trying to trade him. Okay, let's keep him out there so people know he's not hurt, but so part of that. And I think for whoever acquires him, as we've discussed all along, you have to consider what he's got left. How does this go, and how far will a team that's acquiring him push him? I mentioned the world malpractice before if he throws 170 innings this year. We'll see. We'll see what happens with him. But 4 straight starts of 4 or fewer innings for Garrett Crochet. Jordan Montgomery returned. It was a terrible start to the season. He started late, finally signed with the Diamondbacks, pitched like butt, was sent to the injured list, comes back yesterday, and of course those 1-run ball against the Royals, who have been hot offensively, shuts down an offense that's been pretty good late. Stops Bobby Witt, who's gone 12 for 15, holds him to a hit. These things happen, right? And it's funny. I was reading it. Witt, Montgomery, pitched well yesterday. He's pick him up in all leagues. It's like, I'm a Jordan Montgomery guy, as we've talked about here on the show. We got to be honest that he's pitched like butt this year. Was the effort yesterday coming back from the knee issue impressive? Yes. Still, it was a 67-inning, 67 pitch, 5-inning effort of a one-shot deal. He faces the Nationals next time out, though. That is not a lineup to fear. In fact, that's a lineup we're starting to attack with pitching. So if Montgomery's on the waiver wire and you want to take the shot, take the shot. But understand there are still concerns. We're not out of the woods merely because he had a solid effort yesterday. All right, let's talk about some of these injured guys before we visit with Armando or Marsal here in a few minutes to talk some football. And, I sat here on this show yesterday. I think it was yesterday, right? And we talked all about the situation with Julio Rodriguez. And they ran x-rays, they ran MRIs, everything's fine. And the anticipation he's going to miss a few days because that's what the team told us. He's going to be fine. He's placed on the injured list yesterday out of nowhere because that is not what we were told. The team said he was going to be fine, miss a few games. Okay. Goes on the injured list, which is strike number one against them and him, of course. And then 2 we hear high ankle sprain. Now, high ankle sprain is really a more of a football basketball injury. But what we do know is that if it actually is a high ankle sprain, that's not good. For the baseball audience who's not used to hearing you hear ankle sprain, a high ankle sprain, generally speaking, all different. We need to know the exact diagnosis, which we don't have. Generally speaking, a high ankle sprain takes about twice as long as an ankle sprain to heal from. There's 4 to 6 week time frames that you get a lot with high ankle sprains. We don't know how much time he's going to miss. We were told he was day-to-day. Then they put him on the injured list, so that was not truthful. When you tell someone is day-to-day, you don't say that if they have a high ankle sprain. So either the high ankle sprain reporting is wrong or the team was disingenuous with us because, again, I can't imagine that all of a sudden they woke up one day and, they ran x-rays, they ran MRIs. Like they were fully aware of the issue with the ankles. So very disappointing. I think at the end of the day, the bottom line is we're going to be without Rodriguez. I would anticipate for more than 10 days. I would expect this to be 2 to 3 weeks in the best case scenario. It's starting to look like, not Corbin Carroll levels, right? But it's starting to look like it's just going to be a season of a disappointment for a first-round draft pick that everything was pointing up on heading into this season. Everything was pointing up on this season. And obviously with the ankle issue, the one trait that has carried him in fantasy, the ability to steal bases, has to be in question moving forward, even when he returns. Mike Trout, if you want to get frustrated with an injury, we talked. I know I hate to laugh at people's misfortune, right? I really do. I'm not just saying that. I really do. I'm not that guy. We can all be successful in the world. I don't need to have you fail for me to succeed, right? I'm not into that. But Mike Trout, we were talking about on the show, and I mentioned how all of a sudden they ramped this up kind of out of nowhere. It seemed like, we haven't really been getting any updates. He's doing a few things. He's going to play 2 games in the minors. He's going to be back on Thursday for the Angels. Now there's no chance that happens. Why? Because in his first freaking game back out, he had to be removed from the game with left knee soreness. I don't know. So, we haven't got an update. Is this a tweak and it's a week longer? Is this a setback and it's weeks longer? Is something going on here with his knee? Is this a last gasp effort for them that they didn't tell us about in a season? He's going to be shut down. Like, we have no idea what this means. What we do know is, and I was thinking about this yesterday. I don't know about you. I oftentimes think in the shower. I was in the shower, and for some reason, I know why. I read this report, and I was frustrated. And it was hot. It was hot here in California and everything. So I was like, I'm going to take a shower. It was, 5:30 last night or 6:30 last night after I walked my dog. You can follow him, by the way, on Twitter at OllieAussieDog. You can follow me he's on Instagram at OllieAussieDog. He's not on Twitter. Instagram at OllieAussieDog. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at The Ray Flowers. And I actually have my shirt on today. On that picture on my Instagram account, asked me about my dog's Instagram account. So we took him out, came back. I was taking a shower, and I'm thinking to myself, it's so interesting because Kyle Elfrick and I were down for SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. We were down in Arizona for the Fall League All-Star Game. What year was it? 2019, whatever the hell year it was. No, what am I saying? 2013? Whatever year it was when Trout and Harper were there, and we were trying to interview them. And we ended up trying to get Harper. We couldn't get Harper. We got Mike Trout. I guess it would have been 2010. Let's go 2010 in Arizona Fall League. And we were able to get Trout. And after Kyle grabbed him as he was walking by to answer like 4 questions for us, like 8 of the reporters came running over. And that was the big question back then. That was cool to get that short little soundbite with Mike Trout on the field. But it was that question at the time, is it going to be Trout or Harper? Harper or Trout? Trout or Harper? Harper or Trout? Who is going to be the Hall of Famer? Are they both going to be Hall of Famers? At the end of their careers, who's going to be better? And for the first 6 years of their careers, it was Mike Trout with a bullet. And poor Bryce Harper was just a dude. And it was like, Mike Trout was the answer to that question. Last 5 years, the answer's been Bryce Harper, and it's not even close. And we're now to the point, legitimately to the point, where it really starting to appear likely, not even possible, but likely by the end of this, Bryce Harper is going to have been the answer to the question by a mile. By a mile. Mike Trout has played 29 games this year. He will not play 100 games. It will be the fourth time in 5 years he has not played 100 games. And I'll go you one further. It'll be the fourth time in 9 years he hasn't played 85 games. He's never on the field. He had 10 home runs this year in 109 at-bats. Killing the baseball. I mean, that's a 60 home run pace over a full season. Now, the last time he had 600 at-bats was 2014. Well, let's call it a 45-50 home run season, even if he misses 20 games. So I don't know when he's going to be back. If you take Mike Trout next year in the draft, it's on you. Like, I'm going to have him ranked lower than even I had him this year. I think this year I had him like as a $19, $20 player. I have him in one league. I took him in labor. It was like the 6th round. And he was like my 3rd outfielder. I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot, right? I didn't tell anyone to take Trout this year. I'm not going to tell anyone to take Trout last year. I've written for multiple years in the preseason about Mike Trout never being on the field. It's been biggest questions answered, that huge article I write, kind of leading off the draft guide. I wish Mike Trout the best, but dude doesn't play. He can't stay healthy. And remember, he's got a contract paying him like $40 million a year through 2030. That contract that gave Mike Trout is going to become the next contract after Albert Pujols. The Angels have given 2 massive contracts to players that will not have earned anywhere near the value of the contract for the second half of it. Just how it is. Kyle Tucker, I jokingly said earlier, maybe he'll play baseball again. I assume he'll play baseball again. He did some outfield work yesterday. Yay. I mean, I guess he's making progress. Here's what manager Joe Espada said. Quote, "There still is not the pushing or strength we like to see, but it's better," unquote. Remember, Kyle Tucker's shin injury was supposed to cost him a couple of days, wasn't even supposed to end up in an injured list stint. According to what the team told us, it's going to cost him at least 2 months in a best case scenario. Now, I'm not saying they lied. And I know that that's easy to infer from what I'm saying. I get it. Because in the back of my head, that's what they did. I'm not saying that happens. But you really have to wonder, when the team comes out and says he should be okay and avoid the injured list, you really have to wonder what's going on if he misses 2 months. If the team was telling us that at the start, what has changed to so drastically affect the outcome from he's going to miss 5 days to 2 months? Like, is there a problem with their medical staff? Did they misdiagnose something? Like, you could say that everyone takes different periods of time to recover from injury. Totally fair and true. But there's no possible way a 5-day injury for me is a 2-month injury for you. That's not 5 days, 10 days. Okay. 5 days, 2 weeks. Okay. 2 months? So I don't know what's going on. But I mean, they're a shin bruise. Something else has happened here. I'm assuming that they have not been fully honest with us with what goes on, and we're going to find out more information in the offseason. That's my assumption. We'll see how it plays out. Kris Bryant is back. I don't know if anyone cares. Bouchard was sent down. Sean Bouchard was sent down to the minors. Kris Bryant's got the name. He's got the contract. He's got the ballpark. He's Mike Trout Jr. at this point. He can't stay on the freaking field. I don't know. He's 32 years old, and the back has continued to be an issue. We'll see. If he's on the waiver wire and you want to add him, track record, skill set says do it. Recent performance says stay the hell away. So Kris Bryant is absolutely at this point in time not Kris Bryant, air quotes. He's only someone to add if you have a roster spot to take a chance on. Like some of you are taking a chance on Caminero, right? Maybe it's Dylan Cruz you're rostering. Maybe you got Bobby Miller, right? Maybe you're playing that game. If you have one of those guys, don't go add Kris Bryant. If you don't have one of those guys, you don't have that future payoff potential, try Kris Bryant. Christian Scott is sent to the injured list with the right elbow sprain. Sprains are actually tears, or just it's a technical way of determining the level of tear. It's a minor tear, but there is extreme concern that Christian Scott's season's obviously over and that surgical intervention might be necessary. We'll hopefully get more of an update there, but yet another young pitching prospect bites the dust. At this point in time, I'm expecting his season to be over, Christian Scott, and my fingers are crossed that he doesn't need surgery to cost him next season. But that is in play at the moment. Max Scherzer, who only pitched a couple innings last time out, didn't look good, didn't feel good. is going to start tomorrow against the White Sox. It's a winnable matchup. Scherzer's been obviously a little wonky since he's returned, but they say his arm is okay. I'm leaning towards starting him. I don't have the option because a couple leagues I have him in, they're weekly setup leagues, and I didn't start him this week because I thought, I just don't know if he's going to make the start. If you've got Max Scherzer, I'm comfortable starting him tomorrow against the White Sox. And then finally, Bailey Falter's got that arm issue. He's going to start tonight at AAA Indianapolis. He's on the IL with the arm discomfort, maybe a start or two. And he'll be back in early August for the Pirates. It might only be one start. If he looks good tonight, his next start might be at the big league level for the Pirates. And then we have to start worrying about what they do at the trade deadline or don't do at the trade deadline. Because as we've discussed here earlier this week, when we talked about Luis Ortiz, they'll have too many starting pitchers. So they'll have to try to figure this out, especially when Jerry Jones is ready to return as well from the injured list. Okay, so that's the baseball talk. Leave those questions on youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork or at facebook.com/fantasyhq, and we'll address your comments and questions at the end of the show. But right now, it's time. Every Wednesday, it's always time about this point of the show, about halfway in, that we talk to Armando Marsal. Remember, Tyler Beaker's on Thursdays, Russell Clay is on Fridays. It's a Wednesday. It's Armando Marsal Day. So let's get after it right now with Armando Marsal. Welcome to the show, Armando. How you doing today, bud?
I am doing good, Ray. How about yourself? How's everything going on your end?
We're doing okay. Got some injuries and some frustration. I saw you pop in there to hear me a little bit. What do you think about, and this happens in all sports, what do you think when we hear, he's going to play, and then he doesn't play, and it's not, a definitive 100%, I guarantee you he's going to play, but it's, he'll play this weekend, and then on Sunday he doesn't play, and then, he doesn't play next week either, and it's like, well, 12 days ago you told us he was fine, and he's missing 2 games. What are your thoughts when we get less than accurate information about these athletes?
I don't get it. I've never understood it. Like, if a player is injured, it happens in NBA too. Like, they're going through shoot around. They're going to see how it goes, and then they don't play that evening. Then they don't play the following game, and it's just like everyone knew that this player was going to miss not one game, but multiple games, maybe multiple weeks. I mean, what are we doing here? Like, is that one game going to make a difference as far as where you're at, and trying to play tricks on other coaches? No, let's just say it what it is. I mean, the injury report is the injury report. There's no secrets. Let's just do it. I mean, there's just so much information out there. Let's just put that information out there in advance. I know to them it doesn't matter, but there's a betting market. There's people betting. Vegas is impacted by this, and I know fantasy is a small doesn't mean anything to these coaches, but fantasy players are being impacted. So I think it's a ripple effect, right? Like, I think this information should be out there well in advance. There should be a rule. Like, there should be a rule. Hey, listen, 2 hours before the game, if that player cannot give it a go, like, that's it. You can't play. Like, it should be some type of rule.
I think it's you, and you brought up a great point there that has been discussed. I've mentioned previously too, probably why I think it's a great point. But the idea that, there's so much money involved now. Like, this is not 1978. We're just cheering our teams on. There are literally billions of dollars being spent in fantasy and in gambling on all these sports on a yearly basis. And it's a drastic difference if Kyle Tucker's in the lineup or not this week for the Astros. It's a drastic difference if Lamar Jackson is playing or he's got the runs and can't play this week. Like, these are huge, potentially, game-swinging outcomes because of the players being out of the lineup. I am stunned. Honestly, I'm very stunned that the sports are now in bed with gambling. And they've not regulated this more directly. It just doesn't make any sense to me, Armando.
No, none whatsoever. And you see, it's really, really bad in basketball. Like, you see it, it's like you'll see, like, after, so the tip off is, let's say 7 p.m., but the game doesn't really start till like 7:15, 10. And the players ruled out at 7:07. I mean, tip off was supposed to be 7. Bets are in, DFS lineup. So you see this all the time. And I think there has to be a better way to go about it, especially like you said, like, when there's so much money involved, and now that sports are in bed with sports betting in Vegas and things like that, like, it has to be regulated to a certain extent, in my opinion.
Armando Marsal of FantasyGuru.com joining us here today, and I didn't mean to bring him into my bitch session, so let's get back to football, which is why he's such a happy guy. I don't want to make him all negative like me. Let's talk some football. And one of the recent stories that, last 24 hours, we're getting some updates here. The Brandon Aiyuk situation is one that we've been discussing for a long time. He wants to get paid. The Niners want to pay him, but they don't want to pay him as much as he wants. They drafted Pearsall. Like this is all going on. So for the final time, hopefully, where are we at with Brandon Aiyuk? Do you assume he stays with the Niners? Do you assume he plays? How does this situation with the contract plan? CeeDee Lamb now is holding. Talk to us about the diva wide receiver position and specifically Brandon Aiyuk.
So nothing has changed for me with Brandon Aiyuk since we first started talking about this. And Ray, it's not going to be the last time we talk about this. There's just going to be a couple more weeks of this going on. I know you want it, a wishful thinking, right? But look, I'm still treating him as a top 12 wide receiver. He's such a big part of what the San Francisco 49ers have done and are doing. I'm drafting him with the mentality that he's going to stay in San Francisco. That's kind of how I view him. I think he's going to stay there. And he's been the top 15 wide receiver in each of the last few years, over a 22% target share there, over 1,000 yards, over 70 receptions, at least 7 receiving touchdowns. Big part of what they do. This is a great offense, one we like to invest in. So for me, I'm still investing in him. I have him ranked wide receiver 12 over in the draft book. And right now, I'm not going to make any adjustments until something drastic happens, or once we get closer, if the situation remains really unclear, maybe we'll make some adjustments. For right now, I'm still drafting him really aggressively as a top 12 wide receiver.
Yeah, and by the way, for those people that are looking for auction information, I have 3 articles that are coming out in about a week talking about auctions. But if you need information right now, Armando's draft book has the players ranked, for rounds, but also has the dollar amount in there. So that's a way you can find it. We'll also have Tyler Beaker and Russell Clay getting theirs out as well. So check that out, the draft book over at fantasyguru.com. Isaiah Pacheco, who I laughingly saw someone in our industry call a breakout player this year, because apparently, when you're the 15th best player at your position last year, you can still be a breakout player, which I don't even know how that's possible. But he's the guy we all kind of think, I believe he's kind of right on that RB1 cusp, right? But he is somebody who I personally love to watch because he plays football like he's Earl Campbell. Now, unfortunately, he's built more like Darren Sproles and Earl Campbell. So there are those concerns about, is this aggressive running style of his going to lead to him missing games? We got a Deneric Prince report yesterday. Oh, let's all get excited. Who's the backup? Is it CEH? Like, who's the backup there? And I assume you're going to tell me that because of that running style and the investment in Pacheco, that you would like to handcuff him if possible.
For me, it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, that's who it is for me at this time. I'm Deneric Prince, in my opinion, is the RB3 there in Kansas City at this moment. I've been drafting Clyde Edwards-Helaire at his ADP on drafters because I think it's way too cheap. I think we're going to get more clarity between now and the start of the season. But at this moment in particular, it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. There's nothing else that, I don't know why we think it's going to be Prince. So if he beats him out, okay, fine. But right now, today's July 24th? It's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, look, and if you have any doubts, guys, go to the RB handcuff grid that Jeff Mance posted there at the Draft Guide, and it's in green. That means it's locked in, guys. All right, it's locked in. So we trust Jeff Mance, and I agree with him. I think it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire there.
Jeff talked about this on the Elite Sports Show yesterday, the Elite Sports Show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. That's on every day from 3 to 6. I'll be on with him today, as I am every Wednesday. He talked about the report yesterday out of New England where Jared Mayo said that Jacoby Brisset is the most pro-ready guy we've got. And he said, oof, like, we all know that's the case. Like, you don't need to say that publicly. Like, that seems kind of like a dig at May. Or let's move beyond the words. And, it's looking very likely that Jacoby Brisset is the starter for the Patriots in week 1. How many starts does he make this year? Everyone wants it to be May, but how many starts does Brisset make? And if we're in a super flex league, is he draftable as a 2, or is that still too risky at this point in time?
So, all right, I think as far as Brisset, how many games he's going to start, I think they're going to have him out there as long as they think May needs to get ready, right? And maybe it's 3 games, maybe it's 4 games, maybe it's 6 games. And then I also think this is a team that's not competing. So once their season is officially over, I think they're going to throw out May and see what they got in May. But early on, I think to kind of, not be a complete mess from week 1, someone like Jacoby Brisset, who can manage games, who's been in a league for quite some time, and it's a competent quarterback. He's not terrible, but he's not someone that I want to start in my super flex league unless I absolutely need to, right? So, for me, it's just deeper formats. But I think we're going to see May at some point this season. I think it's going to be very unpredictable as to when. Is he going to be ready in week 3? Is he going to be ready in week 4? Does the team think that he's not ready by week 8? Like, I think it's just a matter of when May can learn this playbook, because that's something that these rookie quarterbacks need to do. He needs to learn the playbook, and they don't want to just throw him out there, to get hit and get beat up and stuff like that. This is not a great supporting cast. So I think as long as possible that they can keep him silent and groom him, I think they will.
All right, Armando. What about Daniel Jones? There was a point in time with Daniel Jones that, we weren't sure he was going to be ready for week 1 coming back from the knee issue. It seems like he's going to be fine. It seems like he's got a really great shot at this point to be out active in week 1. A lot of people talking about, even though he signed that huge extension for like $160 million, that this is kind of a make or break season for him. They've added some weapons around him. There's still uncertainty with the offense, of course, with the Giants. Where do you have him ranked right now? And why do you have him where you do?
So I have him at QB 22 in the draft book right now. So low end QB 2. I think when you look at him in the super flex league, he makes a lot of sense as a QB 2, only because he has that rushing ability, right? He's been a top 23 quarterback in 3 of the 5 years since he's been in the league. He's had a top 12 finish, and because of what he's capable of doing with his legs, that always gives these quarterbacks a little bit of an edge, especially later in rounds. You're taking less risk and you're getting good upside here. Is he a volatile quarterback? Absolutely. Does he have an incredibly low floor? Yes. Look, last year he played just 6 games, and Ray, it was ugly. I mean, it was really, really ugly. We're hoping for him to bounce back this year and, maybe get back to that 2022 season. He wasn't even great as a passer that year, is what he did on the ground. So I'm viewing him as a low-end QB2. I think in super flex leagues, I'm okay with him as your second quarterback. In 2 quarterback leagues, I'm okay with him as your second quarterback. But I wouldn't want to have him and another volatile quarterback as my QB1. I'd want a safe floor quarterback with that first QB1 if you're going in the direction of Daniel Jones.
Marsal, Ray Flowers here on Fantasy Sports Daily. Armando shows up every Wednesday to help us out here and dissect some of the issues in football. And one of the things he's been doing over at fantasyguru.com, remember, go to the website, click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. You get access to all of Armando's seasonal work there if you get the seasonal package. We also have the DFS and wagering packages available, so you can get all 3 of them separately. You can get all 3 of them bundled together, which would be the smart move. But you've been, recently you've been talking about this, you and I, but you recently posted an article with the ADP over at drafters.com. And people can see it on the screen there. If they've never signed up at Drafters, use the promo code ELITE. That gets you a 100% deposit match. So if you've never been a member there, 100% match. Put 100 in, 100% match, $100. Use that promo code ELITE. If you've been there previously, you can re-up and use the promo code ELITE10 for a 10% match. So that's very nice. You did, again, an article that was basically showing the ADP and everything over there recently, Armando. And, Marvin Harrison, I don't think the hype can get any higher. And you and I have talked about him previously. I think if I read it right, he's inside the top 15 overall. And maybe this is just Ray, is thinking it's 1987 or something, but a rookie in the top 15 overall with a 4'2" quarterback that's had 1,000-yard receiver in his career with a new system. Crazy to me. Am I not talking dynasty? We're talking this year alone. Is that craziness, or do you think he's going to have enough of these big weeks to pay off in this drafters format?
So it's funny because when I see him go in that back end of that first round, which he's going, his ADP is 13th overall. So he's going a lot in that back end of the first round, front end of the second round. And I'm like, there's a couple of other guys I like a little bit better. But once you get to that back end of the second round, mid to back end of the second round, I feel good about it, right? I feel like he should be bunched up there. I have him as a top 20 player in the draft book. And for me, Ray, it's a matter of the volume, right? He's going to get a lot of volume right off the bat. He's obviously talented. We know what he brings to the table from, a talent perspective and all of that stuff. But the opportunities are also going to be there for him right off the bat. I do think, and I'm not going to disagree with you where you said, and I think that's the point that we need to emphasize here. We're paying premium price for the rookie. We are paying premium price for the rookie. We're not getting a discount on him. This is not, a discount price. You're getting close to ceiling price. And that's what you have to understand. You're investing at close to ceiling price for the rookie in his first year. So that you have to be mindful of. But yeah, I have him as a top 20 player, and I do think he's going to get an abundance of targets and opportunities, not just because of the talent or anything like that. I think he's going to step into a solidified role. When you look at the rest of the receivers here, you got Zay Jones, Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch. I mean, it's not a great supporting cast. Trey McBride will also obviously have a huge role in the passing game, but Harrison's in a position where he can get upwards of 150 targets as a rookie.
Remember, we're talking drafters.com ADP. You can use that promo code ELITE for the match if you're new, Elite 10 if you're an existing customer. Another guy that you have listed there inside the top 15 overall in that drafters ADP is Jahmyr Gibbs. And, I get it. But, not everyone on a team can score 10 touchdowns every year, right? And, there's David Montgomery there, who you and I have talked about before, who's going to be that guy at the goal line. We've got to still think that's the case for the majority of the season. He's going to get his 12 to 15 touches a week. In the drafters format, do you agree with the Jahmyr Gibbs price point? Because, again, it's very similar to Marvin Harrison, and it's very costly.
So I like Jahmyr Gibbs as much as everyone else, right? And earlier on in my process, he was someone I was more aggressive on than I am now. As I've drafted, more and more of these drafts, and just more drafts in general, I've kind of cooled down on where I'm taking him. And I feel like David Montgomery is a better investment at his ADP, right? You're getting David Montgomery like 5 to 6 rounds later on average, sometimes 4 rounds, depending on the draft, but you're getting him at a cheaper cost. Now, I will say, I don't think Gibbs is a bad investment. Last year he had 254 opportunities. 70 plus targets included in those opportunities. I don't think his role changes all that much. But again, like you said, we're paying a price where he's going to have to produce at pretty much the same level he was producing at last year to pay that off. And the touchdowns is the big question mark, right? I mean, we can't forget David Montgomery missed some time, but David Montgomery was one of the highest usage players in the red zone. He was top 5 in red zone carries last year. And that's with the fact that he missed, I think it was 3 or 4 games. Mm-hmm. So he could have led the league in that category last year had he been healthy all year. So just something to be mindful of, because I do think he will take away touchdown opportunities from Gibbs. But his role in the passing game in a format like drafters where it's a full PPR, I'm okay with taking him there. I was more aggressive with him before. I've kind of changed my approach a little bit with my drafting strategy, and now I'm targeting David Montgomery far more than I am Jahmyr Gibbs because of price.
All right, you've been writing a series of articles, Armando, kind of talking about formats, right? This format versus that format. And there are gazillions of formats: keeper leagues, dynasty leagues, PPR, non-PPR, half-point PPR, superflex, 2-quarterback, on and on and on. What is your ideal setup? Give it to us. If someone says, Armando Marsal, I'm doing a league this year, I have no idea how to set this up, I want it to be the best way it could possibly be, Armando Marsal is going to say the following to get that best, perfect setup for folks in fantasy football.
Well, I'm going to make it difficult then. If this is your first league, it's going to be a super flex PPR keeper league. That's my league setup at home, and I absolutely love it because look, I like super flex. It's become more popular over the years, but we've been doing it for 10 plus years at my house, or in my home league. I'm sorry, and it's a fun way to build different rosters, right? And then I've added a couple of flex spots as well. And it gives flexibility to fantasy managers to draft as they want. You don't necessarily have to start 2 quarterbacks, but most people are starting 2 quarterbacks. So for me, I really like Superflex, and I think PPR. I know we've talked about this where maybe half PPR. For me, PPR should be the standard now because of the way the league is, and kind of the where we are in the NFL today with the receivers and all the pass heavy approaches and things like that. So yeah, and then keeper leagues. I posted the article last week. There's different ways to approach these, but I think it's cool for those who are not ready to jump into a full dynasty league, and because that is a lot of work, especially in the off season, things like that. But if you do well in your drafts, you're able to get rewarded for some of those good calls that you made last year, right? And you're able to keep these players the following year, maybe a handful of players. In my league, it's 2. So that would be my ideal league, and it would be 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 2 flex options, 1 tight end, and 1 super flex. And that's right, you didn't hear me say defense, you didn't hear me say kickers. If you're going to do anything, I think 1 to 2 flex IDP spots. That's what we have at my home league as well. I think that's the way to do it. Instead of team defense, I think it creates a new dynamic and it's fun. And it's more realistic, right? It's really more realistic than a team defense. So that would be the ideal league setup there for Armando Marsal.
Final question for you, Armando. Thank you for that. Inflation. That's something that comes up a lot because we're getting all the questions now about keeper leagues and stuff. And it's like, oh, I got Puka Nacua in the 16th round because I took him in the 16th round last year. Okay. I've got Anthony Richardson in the 15th round because I took him in the 17th round 2 years ago and it goes up 1 round a year. Okay. What's the right way to do this? Because I always laugh. It's like, how the hell is Bijan Robinson a first-round pick and Christian McCaffrey's a fifth-round pick? Like, you'll see these weird things sometimes because of the way the rules are set up. What should inflation look like, or how do you handle it in your home league?
So the way we've handled it in my league is where you draft a player, let's say round 15 or 18 the year before. Let's say 18, round 18. The following year, that player is going to cost you a round 15 pick, right? So you give up 3 rounds ahead of that.
Oh, I think we lost Armando Marsal. We'll give him a second here to come back. We're all on pins and needles. What's the answer going to be to the question? This is how this is in radio, what we call a tease, except we're not in radio, so we're on a podcast right now. We'll pause Armando right now. We'll see if we can get him back here before the end of the show. We'll go to the chat room here and look at the comments that have been left. Let's see here. Angelo and Doug said, yo, hello, both of you. Angelo says, go Reds. Yes. We've had a Tiger background, Doug. Yeah, for those of you who can't see, we do have the Reds mascot and everything in the background here. We've had a Tiger background before. Yeah, we've done that. I'm trying to remember. I mean, I could look it up real quick. I don't remember offhand. There's a lot of guys. We've had Tigers before. Come on, Doug. Angelo said the following. I bought a ticket to the Braves-Reds game, but forgot it was a day game. Ticket $27. $27. Parking's $49. So I sold it. Well, all right, Angelo. Sorry that you're going to miss the game. That's unfortunate. At least you didn't go to the game that got rained out. I guess that's a positive. Angelo says Gallup retiring after 6 seasons. The average NFL career is what, 3 years? I'm making that up. I think that's fairish. Like a 6-year career in the NFL is actually pretty damn good. But yeah, I mean, it's playing sports is hard. I was just having this thought this morning, getting out of bed. Like my back hurts every day. I played sports pretty aggressively through high school, but I was, never an athlete getting smashed in the NFL and tackled and all. It's tough, man. So on the surface, yeah, you'd like to see a guy hang around for 6 years. Could he have? Yes, he signed the deal. I think it was the Raiders, right? He signed the deal to keep playing. He just made the decision to move on. Wish him well. But yeah, it's the NFL, man. I don't know how anyone plays football. I mean, that to me is just crazy. Great Filibuster says, salute Ray from a random office in Southern California. Hello, Great Filibuster. Thank you for watching. Random office. Are you doing one of those office share things where you just rent a cubicle? I assume that's what it is. Either that or you're just in the corner at your office at work. And either way, we want to thank you. Really appreciate that. But stay quiet. Keep the volume down. We don't want to get you in trouble. Okay. Yeah. John G says, hey, y'all. Away on vacation. John, we're all jealous. I hope you're having a good time wherever you are. And thank you for listening to us while you're away. Really appreciate that. We have established connection back with Armando Marsal. So let's bring him in before the end. Armando, you're going to give us your answer to the best way to set this up. The best way to handle inflation. Talk to us. You said if it's an 18th round guy, he becomes a 15th round guy, and then we lost you.
Yeah. So basically that's what it is. We give 3 rounds of ahead of the year before. And I think the reason why we do this is because it does it. So like you said, Christian McCaffrey can't ever be kept in this league. So it recycles those early round players and you keep them in the player pool. And you the only way you're going to get lucky is like I drafted Garrett Wilson his rookie year, and I've been keeping him since. So that's like those kind of situations. So that's why we try to reward when you do a really good job at, your research and identifying those, diamonds in the rough later in drafts, and then they become good players. You can keep them. But this basically, if you draft a player rounds 1 through 3, none of those players can be kept. So, and then we have a 3-year window where he can only be kept for 3 years. And then that way, again, you some of these players who were drafted really late will eventually become part of the player pool once again. So that is how we do it. It's very difficult, right, to adjust for inflation because everyone's inflation is going to be different. Like everyone's value is going to be different. You mentioned Bijan Robinson being kept in the 5th round versus, McCaffrey going in the 1st. But a player like Bijan Robinson, his inflation, it might be different than, say what, it's just random name Kyron Williams. There's going to be different inflation, and there's going to be different. So it's very difficult to calculate. So we've tried to come up with something that we think is fair. But we're always trying to work around it, right? We're always trying to figure out ways to improve that. But that's where we're at right now with the 3-round rule.
Armando, Marsal, Ray Flowers here on the show. Armando's with us every Wednesday. You can follow Armando on Twitter X at Armando_Marsal. You can find this show, Catalog Fantasy Sports Daily, over at fantasyguru.com. Click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. You can also find a link there to all of Armando's podcasts, mine and Marsal. We've also got the others that we have on the site there. So click that Elite Plus tab at the top, and you can get this show, Armando's show, and the others that we have as part of the Elite Plus network. Armando, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Have a good day today. Have a good rest of the week, a good weekend, all that kind of stuff. And we'll talk to you in, 7 days here on the show. Looking forward to it.
7 days. Thank you so much. All right. Everyone have a great day.
All right. Got it. That's Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com. All right, folks, head over to fantasyguru.com. Also click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get that package. You can see it right there on the screen right now. The promo code early bird pricing is still in effect right now. I don't know when that's going to change. It's going to change probably soon. So if you're going to get in now. Again, I'm with Jeff Manstand, the Elite Sports Show. That's Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 Eastern. I'm on every Wednesday, so I'll be on with him today. I will be back here tomorrow on Fantasy Sports Daily at 12 o'clock noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific. We'll talk baseball. We'll visit with Tyler Beaker. We'll take your comments and questions and keep the train rolling, as they say here on Fantasy Sports Daily. Thanks for listening today. We'll see you in about 23 hours tomorrow, Thursday. I'm Ray Flowers for Armando Marsal. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.